Early life in Livonia was much more different than what we're used to today. Early settlers set up farms, and then businesses to accommodate the farming community soon followed. Established in 1976, Greenmead Historical Park has been dedicated to preserving an era that might otherwise be lost. Today we'll be speaking with Marion Renaud, Program Supervisor at Greenmead, to help us develop a better idea of what early life in Livonia was like. Well, hello, Marion. How are you today?
Hi, Tim. Nice to see you.
Oh, nice seeing you. So what's in store for us?
We're going to go visit the Newburgh intersection. It was located at Ann Arbor and Newburgh Roads, and it's been moved here to Greenmead, and it kind of shows Livonia during its agricultural time when it was more or less farm community.
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay.
Care to lead the way?
Great. Thank you.
So, Marion, how did Greenmead actually get started?
Well, it was purchased by the city back in 1976. It was a farm site that was listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and the city purchased it from the estate of Gene Hill, and they bought it for $500,000,
Wow.
which was a big investment, but we're very fortunate because it actually made a very nice site to start our historical park.
And now what building will we be seeing first today?
We're going to see the Newburgh Church.
Now, what denominations practiced their faith here over the years?
Well, the church is actually shown during the time it was a Methodist church, about 1900, 1920, but it was first a Presbyterian meeting house and was used by Congregationalists. And generally, it's known as the Newburgh Methodist Church because that was the congregation that was here the longest.
Now, I understand that the belfry had to be removed in order to allow passage under the power lines?
That's how I understand too. It was a difficult move. In fact, it came in two pieces. The Sunday school was moved as a separate piece, so it was quite a project putting it back together.
Now, a job like that must have required a great deal of fundraising. Where did your funding come from?
Well, over the years, the funding's come from a variety of sources. This was one of the earlier buildings moved, but we've received money from, on this particular building, a great deal of money came from the Friends of Greenmead, the Livonia Historical Society, some other city sources, and in general, we have been able to get some state funding from time to time, too.
Well, shall we go inside?
Sure.
Oh, wow. Well, this is beautiful. Now, everything was restored to the way it originally was?
Well, the church evolved over a period of time. It was built in 1848. The building is shown about 1920, and the windows were added about 1904, 1905. And so the windows were something that really was a big effort within the church to get the funds to put these lovely stained glass windows. And they are really, for the most part, the most exciting part of the church.
So when did the church finally receive electricity?
Well, right about the time that we're showing it at, electricity was added. Prior to that, they would have had a wood or a coal stove to heat the building and would have used kerosene or gas lamps.
Now, during that period, what role did the church actually serve for the community?
Well, because Livonia was a rural community, it was really a farming community, an agricultural center, much like what all of Michigan was at that time other than the big cities. People would have had to travel miles to do any kind of social function. So basically, the church served as a community center. They would have had box lunches, socials, a variety of events for people, and of course the religious services.
I see. What's the next building that's on our agenda?
Well, the next thing we're going to look at is the Newburgh School, which is right up the road.
All right, well, let's go. So what year did the school come to Greenmead?
The school came to Greenmead back in 1987 as part of a Michigan Sesquicentennial project, and it's the second of three Newburgh schools that existed in Livonia. The first being a log building built in 1831. This is the second one that was built in 1861. And then there was a third school that was built in 1922.
this was used as a school, what were some of its other uses over the years?
Well, for sure we know it was used as an apartment. There was an addition on the front and the back, and I think they had a couple of apartments. It was used for residence, and at one time it was used as an antique shop.
Okay. And was the bell tower...
That was no longer in existence. That had to be recreated.
Okay.
So really anybody driving down the road would have really missed that it was a one-room schoolhouse. It was only because people knew that it was that the building was actually saved.
Okay. All right, well, let's go in.
Wow. I can't imagine being in one of these one-room schoolhouses all day. What was that like?
Well, it was a different type of education altogether, and it was kind of rough. Teachers would get here a little bit early. There would have been one teacher that would have taught kindergarten through 8th grade. You'd get a variety of children. As the boys grew older, you'd see less and less of the boys in the class because they were busy working on the farm most of the time. But in fact, at one time there was a class of about 40 kids in this room, and the youngest was 4 years old and the oldest was 20. So it was a challenge for the teacher to make sure that she maintained a sense of order in the classroom.
So I take it corporal punishment was administered during that time?
It most definitely was, and as you can imagine, when you have such a variety of children, different levels, different abilities, discipline became very important in the classroom, and it was necessary at times for the teachers to hold a kid afterwards, and they would get the paddle. And kids didn't go running home telling their parents they got in trouble at school, because they'd get more of it when they got there at home. So it was, I'm not going to say kids were any worse or any better. Kids were kids, but the way of handling it was much different.
Oh, I'm glad I was raised when I was. So what did the school year encompass?
Well, because of the farming aspect of the community, the school year was very different from it is now. As I said, school was a luxury, and the kids were needed on the farm to help with chores. In fact, maybe they did an hour or two of chores before they even left for school. But in the fall, there would have been a break for the harvest season, and that would have been, school would have been dismissed. They would have had a harvest. Up north, they're still sometimes let some of the schools out for hunting season, so it's kind of a similar idea. The same thing would have happened in the spring when they were doing the planting. So the school year basically ended up being a winter session, which was a bit longer, and then a summer session. And that's how it worked, and that's what the community was able to work with. And because of the idea of, you know, most people were farmers, so not everybody finished 8th grade, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Now, Greenmead hosts an event that allows students of today to get a glimpse of what life was like in the school. Tell us about that.
Well, because we wanted to make it as authentic for the children as possible, a group of teachers put a curriculum guide together, which really gives the teacher who's bringing her class out here the opportunity to build a whole lesson plan around it. And they spend some time preparing in the classroom. The kids come dressed in appropriate clothing. They bring appropriate lunches, and they really go through all the lessons. They use McGuffey readers, and they get a feel for what it might have been like for their grandparents to go to school in a rural country school.
But no corporal punishment?
No, I don't think the public school system would allow that, and we luckily haven't had children that needed it. We haven't had any incorrigible children since we've opened this program, so
that's good.
Mostly it's a fun day for the kids, and they do get to visit the general store, and that's a big highlight of their day.
No, that sounds like fun. Should we move on to the next building?
Sure, okay.
So the old A.J. Gear General Store. When was that brought here?
It was brought here back in 1976. It was one of the first buildings that was actually moved to Greenmead right after the property was purchased. And the building itself was located at Ann Arbor Trail and Newburgh Road. It was built in 1908, and it opened in 1912. And the original owner, Mr. Gear, who it's named after, ran it as a store till 1916.
So what kind of products would we expect to see in the A.J. Gear General Store?
Well, a lot of what they would have had would have been what we're called dry goods, soaps, cleaning products, the type of thing that people may have been able